All right, hopefully you guys can hear me. I see one person at least joined. I had some severe technical difficulties there. I had to look it up, and apparently Google has a bug. Sorry, I'm smacking the mic. Google has a nice bug that it decides that at random situations it doesn't like to actually start streams, and I had to cancel the stream, delete it, and then create a new stream, and then it started working. So I'm just trying to check on audio right now. It seems like it's being a bit weird. So let me... All right. And I don't know if anybody's seeing this, but I suddenly all of a sudden lost my camera. The streaming device is being weird. It's like it's not running audio, and I'm trying to figure out why. But technical difficulties will hopefully be sorted here shortly, and we can get going. I'm just trying to figure out why my... I've suddenly lost the camera. It doesn't want to work. Alright, so it looks like it came back up. And now I have that video, so I don't know why that did that. That was really weird. But we'll resize this. Alright. And if everybody else can confirm, but it looks like I finally have things working the way I want them now. So, hopefully everybody can hear me. Please give me a message in the live chat. It seems like I might be just using the microphone on my laptop because for some reason or other I'm getting really good audio out of the video device. It's not providing any audio, so I don't know why. But all right, so let us begin the process. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my soldering iron. Hopefully audio is working. I'll kind of check back in a second. But today the gist is going to be I've got my machine over here set up so I can see the board layout. That's the old, I think that the camera has, yes, it's just set up to see the board that I'll be working. And all I'm going to do today really is I'm going to be putting a bunch of capacitors and resistors on this guy. I will be soldering things in the middle. I do have to get myself some audio wires. I should say not say audio, but some wire so that I can wire that up to the board. But that is the goal today. I'm going to find my smaller wires. I did a lot of, oops, I'm kicking the camera. I did a lot of work in my shop, and so now everything's in different places, and I'm going to have fun finding some of the things I want, I'm sure. But my audio, or my small wire spools are running pretty low. I bought a few replacements. I got some blue. I think I'm out of yellow. But I'll double check again and see if anybody can tell me if the audio is working. Nobody said anything yet. It says I've got 3 peak viewers. And I do apologize. The one that I had announced, hopefully people are finding it, the one I had announced disappeared on me because it wouldn't work. I had to delete it. I had to Google it, but I couldn't get the stream started on time because it just would not start. And then once I got it started, it's working now. So I'm going to adjust my microphone a little higher because I keep hitting it with my head. So give me just a second for that as well, if it's even working. I've got a nice microphone set up and it's hooked in. but it seems to me like it may not actually be working, so I might have to troubleshoot that another day as well. But at any rate, I am showing that I have video and audio output going through, so I hope people can hear me. And I'm going to go ahead and get started shortly here. Let me look at analytics. Oh, it does say I have 3 people connected. All right. So the general idea, if you want to follow along, is that this is the Dumble number 124 at the Amp Garage. I could probably show it here on screen for a minute for people that want to see that. I'll get that up in a second. I can share this desktop here, so. And let's see, where's the Dumble? There it is. All right, so we're going to hide So I'm hoping, I'll do this. Yes, that's showing up. All right, so right now, this is what I'll be working on, is this. I'm going to be building this board. And once that, but you guys won't be able to necessarily follow along, but I wanted to show that for you for a minute. I will be populating the components for the board for this guy. And then that will be the gist of our live stream today. So, if you have any questions, please do. Okay, cool. Thanks, Christoph. Is that pronounced right? Christoph Pozorski? Thanks for validating that works. I actually have a relative named Christoph as well. And that's why I think I'm spelling or pronouncing it right, but I could be pronouncing it wrong. All right. So the general idea here, of course, and now I'm looking, this guy's in my way. Move that out of the way. Okay, I've got my soldering iron warmed up. Got my wire or solder here. And what I'm going to do is it starts out with a 0.05 microfarad capacitor. I always like to double check my voltages. One of the things that's been a bit of a bummer for me is almost all the caps that I'm finding don't have exactly 0.05. They have either 0.047 or 0.056, I think it is. And so I've kind of randomly chosen to choose one or the other in those cases. They're only off by a little bit. I don't know how much it's going to affect the tone of the amp. If I feel later that there is a problem with the tone of the amp, I will possibly start changing some of those values as well. But I have these nice Sprague or Cornell Dubilier. I'm not sure which ones. I think these are Sprague. Or some of them say CDE, but some say SBE. I think those are Sprague versus Cornell, but I think they're all the same company now, technically. I have done a test, if that's visible, for the black thing there, or it was a blue marker. I went beforehand and just quickly checked which side the foil end was, so that I can make sure that I'm sending that out the right direction. So the way you generally want that to work is, I've said this on other videos, I'll say it here live as well, you want the foil end to be facing towards the ground or the lower impedance or the lower gain side. So if it's going directly to a previous stage, like a coupling cap, you want it pointing back towards the previous stage. That way any noise that capacitor receives doesn't go forward in the signal chain, it goes back towards the previous gain stage. So it kind of reduces the chance it will cause noise. So to start off with, I want a 0.05 microfarad capacitor. I like to double check these as well, but this one is a 562. I think that's 0.0056. I don't think, well, the slightly bigger one, which is 473, which should be what I'm looking for. Now, I will apologize also, I'm going to have to turn on a fan to help kind of pull off some of that stuff. I'm hoping that won't be a massive noise, but I will kind of check, and if people say they can't hear me talking afterwards, I may have to try and adjust something there. But so this is coming, it's in the nanofarad range. I had to adjust that to be in the, oops, that's not what I want to do. Range, microfarad. That's nanofarad. Okay, so there's my microfarad range. And it says 0.05. That's what I want. So this is the first one, 0.05. Now looking at the 0.05 one, it looks like to me it's coming in from 100K dropper coming off of the first output stage, but that 0.05 one goes over to a mid-tone. So that means that this is the mid-tone capacitor. That's the starting one here. It actually, the lower gain stage would be actually towards the plate where it's coming in, which would be up here. So I will be putting it in here. That's the first one. So that's one of those kinds of things. You can see now I'll have that black that way. I am going to also all right, so I've got that guy in place, and I've got the foil pointed the right way. And maybe I can even turn this just a little bit so that that side is a little more visible to the camera. I'll peek at that and see if that looks a little bit more visible. Oh, I've got to switch back now. I forgot. Now that I've got that going, I want to re-enable my main. Aha. So it helps if I'm showing you guys the right stream part here. So yeah, now you've got your camera up so you guys can see it. I apologize for that, guys. So that now you can see what I've been talking about. Here is the capacitor end foil. I've got this in the first one. If you guys want to log into the Amp Garage, you have to create an account. But I've also shown this on the previous video as well if you want to cross-reference later. But I'm just going to be going through now and getting all of these sorted. So I also need to have a jumper between those two. So I'm going to create a small jumper wire. And I think for fun on these, all the jumpers, I'll use the small purple wire. So just get me a little bit. Cut a small segment, wire strip it on both ends. I've got to figure out how much distance I need. Still need a teeny bit more. Alright. That looks pretty good. So, give myself this little jumper wire. And there we have that. Fold those away. Alright, next up is going to be a 100K resistor. And I think that's this one, but we'll double check. I'm always pretty careful about checking my resistor values. Let me look at no other chat. All right, sounds good. So go back. So this is a 100K, but I will check it with my ohms meter really quickly. 97 point something K. That's it. All right. So we'll put that guy in here. So after I solder, I will go to the bottom and be snipping off some of those leads, but there's that one done. Next, we have the 0.01, and similarly to the same one here, this is going to want to go back to that previous gain stage. This one is going to go to one of the other tone controls as well, so I want that same black lead this way. So we will bend these guys, and then get our sense of where we want them to bend at. Where's my pliers? There. Of course it folded on me, but that's alright. So we'll drop this guy in. Oh, I went too far. Alright. See if that's a good size. And sure enough, it is. So, all right, there's first two. Oh, all right. Okay, next up is this one that goes to here is a 0.3. Oh, this is something I found out I'd kind of gotten askew. Was I ordered a 300 picofarad capacitor for this, and I've also marked the end of that one. But I couldn't find a 330 anywhere to save my life, and that's what it says here. So while you're off a little bit on the capacitance for this is probably like the treble. We will, if I feel like my tone shaping is out of what I would prefer, then I will definitely go through some part of this process and adjust that. So, but meanwhile, for now, I think we're going to be okay. So. That lead bent, and then re-measure my other lead. Alrighty, there's that one. Now we've got to get a couple of 100 Ks, one to here and one to here. That'll be from the anode. I've got those right here. These are nice Dale. This is one of the things I'm trying to go for here as much as possible. He used these Dale type resistors in a lot of these anodes, or not always, but he also used carbon film. And you can kind of see the color matching on this actual layout that I'm using. It shows the dark brownish red ones are these type of Dale, and the rest of them are brown because they're carbon film. And he used carbon film also almost exclusively on these builds. And from what I understand, the quietest ones ever are pretty much metal film, but it's so nominally different. The metal film tend to be the blue colored ones. But the carbon film also, I think this is a mojo thing. I don't know if it really does cause what it causes or not, but you can see this is a metal, or as a carbon film instead of metal film. They're supposedly supposed to add a little bit of warmth. Now, I don't know if that's measurable. I'd love to find out if somebody has ideas about a true test. A lot of this stuff, the complexity of making a true test is that to make a scientific test, you need to have every other variable locked and solid and not changeable, and then just somehow quickly switch between the two and see if you notice any difference in the tone. But and then also another trick is people will say they think that a lot of people, when they're playing their guitars through these kinds of amps, they tend to play differently once the amp starts responding a certain way to them, so that they feel like they're playing better, and it helps them feel like they're playing better, etc. So you'd almost want to play riffs that you consider good riffs into a recorded device and then loop them back so you're not impacting. It's the exact same thing every time. But so we're going to go ahead though and quickly put these guys in. That was enough rambling for a minute. Of course, I put a little too. Alright, there's that one. And let's get the other one. So let me know, guys, if this is still working out all right for everybody. I've got Eric with a question. Okay, so the circuit and the awesome JPEG, I'll post a link here in the channel. Thanks for the question, Eric. That comes from the Amp Garage. I think that's the path exactly, but I'm actually one of the moderators on the forum and one of the site admins. I helped fix some of the problems they're having, but it is a site that is focused on train wrecks, dumbles, as well as some other stuff that people do on more like modifications, etc. So it's a lot of amp builders on the forum, but they welcome anyone else. You can create an account, and even if you don't want to comment, you can't see these images unless you at least create an account. And I'll tell you now, one of the tips of that is that the accounts, there's a question we ask to avoid spammers, and hopefully people aren't going to catch on to this through audio only, but the answer is just, what we just talked about, Dumble or Trainwreck would be the answer to the question when you get to that spam feature. It's just to try to avoid people from getting spammers onto the forum and ruining the forum for everybody. So if you can get that barrier to entry done, then you go again and look. And then if you go, there will be a section called Dumble Files. You'll look for Dumble number 124. And then I've got that's the layout diagram that they have there. They also have some schematics. There's two different schematics for this particular amp. There's one that's the 1984 original. That's the one I'm basing it off of. And the reason I'm doing that is after talking to one of the forum members, he'd indicated to me that this one is closest to probably what the overdrives that Stevie Ray Vaughan used before he went to a steel string slinger later. steel string singer later. So that's why I'm doing this particular amp, is because I really love that tone in that amp, and I'm trying to kind of replicate that one as best I can. But then there's also a modification to this amp that you can do, that same exact layout, but they changed it to a later version that was modified. This same amp was tweaked by Dumble later to hit what I think they call it the high plate classic, where the plate resistors went from 100K up to 220K, and there's a couple other tweaks as well in the circuit that make it a little bit different. But I'm intentionally creating that first one because I want to I'm seeking that particular sound myself. I won't be necessarily jamming with it a lot, but I just want that was the reason that I'm curious about learning it. So hope that answers your question. And just let me know if that's in the Slack or in the chat. The next thing, let's see. All right, so there's my 2 anode resistors that are coming off of that first tube, one for each half of the output. You'll see basically I'll bring in the high voltage here, and then this goes to one anode and this goes to the other anode. So this is the output. It's connecting in. I do need to do another jumper between here and here, so I'll get a small jumper together for that as well. And we will. Alright, and that goes from here to here, if I'm correct. Yes, it does. So I'm going to want to get out. Hopefully that was about right. We shall see. Yes, it is. Cool. All right. So hopefully that's starting to. I'll double check my view here to make sure it looks like that is still in view. It is. I might even tighten up a little bit more so you guys have a bit closer view of the work I'm doing here. Is that a little bit better for a tighter view for everybody, hopefully? Let me know about that. So next up will be this larger capacitor, which is all a 0.005. I'm sorry, 0.05. So it's similar to that first one we did here. Oh, and you know what? Somehow or another, I didn't get that one. So I will have to hunt that one down in a minute and get the foil ends to it, but we'll leave it alone. I won't do that in the video. But it's identical to this one, and I somehow or another thought there was only one on it, and so I didn't grab myself another one. I have another one for it, but I will place that component after I finish. If we get to the end of the video and I feel like I've not been going too long, I'm going to try and stick this to about an hour. If I get to that point, I may do this one as well, but for now we'll just kind of move on. So now what we're going to do is these two are the cathodes, and they have 2 10 microfarad capacitors, and I have those here or here. I got to look which ones. These are the 4.7. Those are the later stage ones. Okay, so here's my 2 capacitors. So there's another thing that I really liked that he does on as for just cleanliness of layout is he puts these end to end. So the anodes of the capacitors are kind of touching each other, and then or sorry, I've said that backwards. The cathodes of these capacitors are touching each other, and they just share a common ground. But the anodes are then pointing away from each other, and you can connect each end. So you connect one end up here and the other end down here. So I will basically put the anodes of these 2 guys to the middle. Now, one of the other things I try and do with these is make sure that I face them so that the actual voltage and capacitance rating are up, so that they're visible, so that somebody doesn't have to come later and go, I don't know what this is, when they want to replace it. They don't have to actually have the schematic to do the replacement. Alright, did that about perfect. This way. Similarly, this guy. And so now, as you can see, if that's totally visible, I hope it is, I've got the positive end here and the positive end here, and both of them come down here with the negative end, so that we've got and now I just need a couple of 1.5K resistors. Those are in here. My 1.5K. I don't remember if I grabbed those out. I don't think I did. Or did I? Maybe I did. Oh yes, I think I did, because these are. I wanted these to be Dale as well. Is this them? Yes. So these are some Dale resistors as well. So there's 2 here, and they'll also be. Since I've got the 1.5K out, I will put all 4 in. These go to each of the cathodes, 1.5K. Oops, dropped one. They're all 1.5K on the cathodes of all of the tubes. If you're curious about understanding why 1.5K was used or why these 100K resistors are used, I did do a video just this week for some of you that haven't seen it yet that goes over why and how you choose your resistors around a biasing of a preamp gain stage. And it kind of explains the load lines, how you calculate load lines, looking at the data sheet, what things you look for, and what things you can do if you wanted to on your own to try and see how that adjusted the output. So, but it does things like increasing the gain of the stage, but that increases a little bit more of noise and whatnot. So, but, all right, let's sense of that guy. I think that's about right. Let's see if I did it well enough. One down. Okay, so there's those. That's all done. I'll check if anybody else has any other questions. It looks like Eric's got that question answered. All right. All right, next we will be hooking up. Okay, so here's one of the parts that for me will be a bit challenging. We now have a small resistor, variable resistor potentiometer that goes here. And one of the things I've done a bit wrong here on this one on accident was that it says 345K. I couldn't find a 300 or 345 or a 350. I think I could only find like a 300 or 400, so I chose 300, and this may be wrong, because part of this is adjusting how I think this is the adjustment for the drive, if I remember. And you want this to be in the right range, so I might have to replace this if I put the amp together, and for some reason I'm feeling like it's just not adjusting the way I want. But in the interim, we will get this guy and put it in. Now, I think if I'm looking at that right, oh, you know, it's another thing I'm not sure I'm getting all of is, no, actually that's good. I was going to say I might have missed a jumper here, but I didn't. I think we're good. I do need to run a jumper from this center point over to this point, so I should maybe do that before I try and put this in. But this is just a small variable potentiometer that will allow me to adjust the overdrive amount of signal that's coming into the drive, if I remember right. But I would have to look at the schematic. I could quickly look at the schematic and see, where was it? Yeah, so it's a small trimmer that's supposed to be about, well, it depends on the schematic. In 1984, it was only a 100K trimmer, but then it goes, there's a 220K resistor, and then the trimmer that works as variable resistor to ground, and then on to a 68K. So effectively, though, I will also, one of the things you want to do is make sure you're aligning these correctly. These small ones can be a bit tricky. I need to test the outer leads and make sure they read the lead to 300. They do. Okay, so this is actually faced in a perfect way for me, where I've got 3 of them, and the leftmost one that's on the triangle is going to go into that hole. The trickier part may be getting this guy actually in all of these holes, but I think I can do it. So I'll work with that in a minute. But like I said, I want to get the jumper done first. So I need to run a jumper. I actually probably want to run the jumper and the 220K resistors in there first. So double check this guy, but I think this is my 220K resistor. I've got a couple of those on this board. Come on, you can do it. I might be touching it. Hello, McFly. Yep, 220K. All right, there we go. So this one goes right here. And then I need a jumper from that same position over to ground. So I guess that's just, they're just connecting ground. So to be nice for people to be looking at this, since my purple ones were just jumpers for signal wire, this is a jumper to ground, I will make it black. I do like to kind of color code things in ways that will make logical sense to someone trying to fix them later. And they may not know what colors I like to use, but they'll at least see a color that looks like black and say, oh, that might be a ground, and sure enough, it will be in this case. But let's see how much I need to adjust this guy. I need to take a little bit more off. Come on, you can do it. There we go. All right. One of the other things that might be a little bit tricky here is I need to connect this ground out, and I have to get a wire into that. But we'll do that. I'm going to add the wires a little bit later. But once I get all the boards populated with components, I'll get the soldering iron fired up, and we'll kind of start tacking some of those down. But you guys can hopefully start seeing as well, this process with me talking is slowed down a little bit, but it's also not a simple and easy process. It does take a little bit of time and effort to go through all of it. Thanks, A. Kacharok, with a thumbs up. So next is going to be, let's see, that 220K. And then we've got to, okay, so now I want to get this guy. Oh, you know what, though? I do need to have, this is going to be a part I want to be careful about. I need to actually run a lead off of it. So I will give myself a bit of purple lead here. What is that going to, actually? Let me look. The other side goes to the grid and the 68K resistor. Alright, so I just need a short lead. Purple should do. Alright. There's going to be a lot of purple in this. I bought some new purple wire. Actually, I've got some blue wire too. I like the, let me grab the blue wire. I'll use the blue wire for this. Where did that go? Oh, I've not pulled it out of the bag yet. So I'll put some blue wire on this. That'll be my signal leads to the anodes, or to the grids. Alrighty. Alright, so let's see. Just give myself about 4 or 5 inches. Strip that end. And what we'll do is I'm going to come up through, there's a small hole that was pre-drilled when I did the boards. Its job is to basically be here for this wire to go through. And then I'll drop that in there. Alright. That means that I now technically have everything I need for this guy. Oh no, I need another jumper that will go from this point as well. Did I do the jumper right on that one? Hold on, I might have done the jumper wrong. I did. This jumper needs to come back up. Got my... This jumper doesn't go to that one. It comes all the way over to this same first one. So I need to kind of give myself a little bit more room on that and figure that out. It was supposed to have gone to this wire. So I did strip a little more than I wanted to, but that will still do the business. All I have to do is get that to pinch across there. So there we go. That's better. All right, now I've actually had problems in the past where when I put these small guys on, they will tend to want to kind of fall off. So I will probably tack solder at least one leg of it on once I'm sure that I've got a leg that's connected with everything it needs. But first thing I'm going to do now is do a jumper from here all the way over to the middle of this guy. which looks to me is also the ground. Is that right? Really? Oh, maybe they're just linking grounds together. I got it. Okay, so this is my ground point. Sorry, this one. This is my ground point, and it's going to also be tied up over to one of these ones here on the, I think it's this one. Yeah, it's that one. So I've got to do another ground jumper across there. So I might try and kind of, I'm trying to think of how I want to do that. It might be better to do that one on the bottom of the board, but we'll see. I need how much? At least that much. Give myself room for some leads. Alright, so let's see if I can intelligently pull off running this guy. I'm also beginning to think that this jumper for this ground as well might be better served under the board, but I don't know. Let's see here. Because now that I've done all that, it may be kind of hard to get my this. Yeah, I might have to. Let's do that differently. This is another thing you'll learn, is that sometimes the things, your best laid plans, don't work. So I need this guy to be able to fit in this, and to do so, he has to be pretty close to the lead, or to the actual eyelets. But with that wire coming in from the bottom or from the top like this, it creates a bump that's hard to get the leg into. So I'm going to run both of these up underneath, but I'll just measure it first from the top. So see if I got that better. Double check my measurement now. Just about perfect. Alright, so instead of coming from the top, I'm going to do this guy from the bottom right now. So that means I'll which, you know, it is what it is. And I'll have to do the same jump on the bottom because I chose to have such tiny, such a small, so I might have to actually lift this up carefully. So one of the things you also want to be careful of is when you're putting them in a spot like this, it's fairly easy to do when it's not moving, but once you start moving things around, you can start dumping stuff off on accident, which you definitely don't want to do. There we go. All right. Now this one, it looks like to me, oddly enough, that it was a signal wire that they just come down through that hole. I don't know. It looks like I may not have even needed to connect that as an eyelet. It's just an outlet hole. But we'll leave that as be. Although it could be also, in some amps there might have been slight other modifications, and this firm doesn't use that, but that eyelet looks like it's not needed. Check to see if anybody else has any questions. Can the camera focus on the board? Oh, have I lost focus on the board? Let me try and see if I can get that right. Sorry about that. Let me pull up. Oh yeah, it is out of focus. Thanks for letting me know about that. It was probably when I did the adjusting for the zoom that I got the focus off. That looks a little bit better. Not quite yet. Let me go full screen here so this looks a little bit clearer to me. Alright, is that a little bit better? Hopefully that's a little bit better on the focus too. Alright. So, let me... is that better, Eric? Alright, so next up will be... I got the jumper. Alright, so I think if I can pull this off, I'm going to want to actually try and at least solder one connection in here, which might be this guy. but we will see if we can pull this off. There went my jumper off the bottom, of course. This is definitely, I remember in every other build I've done too, doing some of these kinds of small jumpers and small components can be what makes you want to start cursing. Maybe I'll just leave this one on the top, after all. This other problem I'm having here is this hole's getting pretty full right here. Alright, let's see if I can leave that one on the top. Alright, I'm not even going to turn the fan on because I'm going to just quickly fill this hole right here with solder. Because that should tack this guy in place for me, I believe. Alright, done. So now, I can see it looks like we've got good connections on other points, and that one won't walk away on me, and I can also just for giggles now snip away this a little bit, it'll leave its extra out of my way. Alright, so next, now we've got that little pain in the butt tacked in place. We're going to have another couple of 100K resistors here. Then after that, I've got a 0.01, and then over here, trying to look at that. Oh, we got a jumper. Okay, so jumper. So I probably want to put the jumper down first. There's a small jumper that goes from here to here because these larger capacitors need to kind of connect down to here before they go over. This one does anyway. So I will get a small jumper for that. That can be more of a signal style jumper. Hopefully everybody's not too bored out of their minds watching the build happen here. So actually, I cut way too much for this, and I need a very small jumper, so save that for later. Trying to get that small enough for this jumper. It's not wanting to work with me. There we go. Alright, so what are my 0.01 caps? Oh no, those are the 0.1 caps and the 0.01 cap. Oh, did I do my counting wrong? 1, 2, 3. Oh no, that's right. That's it right there. Okay. And so this one, let's look at the orientation. This is coming off of the anode and going off to a foam 100K. Then heads off. Oh, that doesn't show me on the layout. Where does that come from? The second stage. Let me look at the. So you have to look at the resistors quite often. So from the second stage, I got a 0.1 cap. Which I think is the overdrive. Yeah, so that goes to 100K that then heads on to the next stage. So we want that one with the black dot towards the side. So that will go here. Oh, there went my jumper. I don't know how that even did that. It like jumped out and went through the other jumper. Oh. Okay. Look, thanks, Eric, for letting me know about the focus there. I seem to be having a lot of fun with that. I have a new camera. It's a really high-quality camera, but I'm trying to use my old lenses, and so autofocus basically doesn't work on the old lenses, and so I tend to sometimes think I have focus in, and then I move something and forget to refocus, and then I'm out. So that's one of the areas I need to get a lot better at. So I apologize for the focus problems I've been having lately in my videos. Go. There's that one. There's my other 200Ks. That's good. So basically I'll be connecting a signal wire here and here, and then the red wire will go here. And I'll be doing the wiring, as I said, a little bit later. But so now we've got to get the 0.005. And I think I was going to salvage this guy from the fender, because I realized I'd ordered a 0.0056. Think. Well, you know what? Maybe not. I was debating that, I think. So I've got this one, which should be the 0.005, I believe. Yes, it is, 562. So I can actually just use this guy. And that will be the same way. That's the actually, that's the other stage output. Let me look at that. Other stage and output. Is it output or input? Let me look. Oh, I scroll off there. Yeah, so that's the output of the drive. So you'll also notice this is a 0.005 coupling capacitor for the drive stage. That's one of the other things that Dumble's doing is that he is carefully shaping the tone coming out of the drive so that it kind of cuts back some of the frequencies he doesn't want coming into the next stage. So let's look at that. All right, there's that one. Next up, we have, there's some tail capacitors there that are 100K and 150K. So, I've got 100K. Thought I had one of those other out, but I might not have. So I will get another one. And that one goes on the right side, and 150K, and then I've got 150K that I've got as well. So let me first put this 100K in. Now I gotta get my 150K. Like, oh, actually, you know what? These ones are the only. I had a hard time finding some, but these are also Vishay Dale, nice RN65 ones as well. And it makes me wonder if I should. That first 100K is at the input stage, so it's not where we're. But this one's a little bit more important because it's the output stage. All right. 100K. Alright, so I'm going to end up sliding. Well, let's see. Alright, how long have we been going? Looks like we've been going for almost an hour. Let me look. Yeah, 51 minutes. So, I guess I'll ask everybody, is everybody still interested in what's going on? Is this enough for this video? It's been an hour. I don't know if I want to push it much longer than that on a live video or live stream. So I'm going to wait for a minute for some feedback from people. If people want to keep coming along, let me know. But it also is getting a bit long and potentially boring for people that might want to watch later. But I was just kind of figuring that I would keep it near the hour time frame. I'm down to 3 viewers. Yeah, so I peaked for a while there, and I'm cutting back off, so I probably will end up stopping short here in a little bit. My next video will possibly be me just finishing this board, and I'll put that into a little bit more edited form where I cut through a lot of the stuff that's the tedious, slow process. But I'll keep going for just a couple more minutes anyway. I need to put a couple 1.5Ks here. These is my, and these are the other 2 capacitors, so I'll keep doing that. I'll check here in just a minute or two if people are interested in me keeping on going. But since I only have about 3 people left, I think that I am kind of the opinion that going too long ends up losing interest, and I think I've gone too long and people are losing interest. So, all right. Alright, so far I've not seen anybody. I know that there's a little bit of lag and latency on this, but... Alright, and then my 1.5K resistors will also mirror up with that. So as you can see, like I've mentioned, an hour-long process just to populate the board. It probably would be a lot shorter if I wasn't talking through things and trying to adjust camera and all that jazz, obviously, but it is still a fairly time-consuming process that is not easy. To me, it's a little bit, it's kind of the funnest part, though. It's almost like a puzzle you're putting together, you know? I could understand why some people might find this part not only challenging, but annoying. So, all right. So, at this point, I think I may end up calling her quits. We're just coming up on the 54 minutes of live stream run. I had 3 at one, or I had, quite a few people at 1.6 or so total, but then we're now down to just 3. So I will go ahead and call this good today. Thank you very much, everybody, for following along. I appreciate the attendance. I would really highly recommend that if you haven't subscribed, to subscribe so you get notifications. You also need to hit the little bell to get alerts, because I am planning these a few days ahead of time, at least usually, but the problem I had this time was I had to cancel the one I'd set up just this morning right before I started because of the problems with the stream. So it may have made it seem invisible to some people. But thank you, everybody, for joining, and I will have more content coming soon. You guys have a great day. See ya.